Hey, it's Matt O'Leary, and it's time for a little Coheed and Cambria tier list. This is absolutely one of my favorite bands. And I just wanted to do something a little different here. Usually my reviews and videos are very deliberate. I usually write notes for myself, and there's no preparation. It's totally off the cuff. And part of the motivation for this is just feeling like if I ranked albums by my favorite bands, that it had to be like the canonical version, that I was setting it in stone. But this is a little less precious and a little more casual. So we're just going to go after it here with the studio albums from, like I said, one of my favorite bands, progressive metal, progressive rock, a little emo, a little bit of post-hardcore in there. And really, they don't fit squarely within any given genre. They really are a singular band with a very unique identity that stands apart. And that's why I love them. That's part of why I love them. The other thing is just incredible songwriting across the discography. And, there really isn't a bad Coheed and Cambria album in my mind. I think there are some that are stinkers in comparison to other Coheed albums, but to make this more interesting, I'm going to do it like that. So you're going to see maybe a C, maybe some Bs, maybe some lower rankings where those albums wouldn't get that if I was comparing them to any other rock album. But because I'm comparing Coheed to Coheed, you'll see a little bit more disparate outcomes here. So starting right away with Second Stage Turbine Blade, the first album. So I'm just going to go from kind of chronologically here. Second Stage Turbine Blade, fantastic album. Very different in their discography. It's very raw. It has a lot of that post-hardcore and emo, and that's kind of their roots, as a band. So you get a lot more just harsh tones and vocals and guitars. There's some screaming in there. But just start to finish, it is a classic. I think it takes some time to really warm up to this album, but thinking about songs like Everything Evil and Delirium Trigger and Time Consumer, and even some of the latter songs on the album, the final song, some of my favorite Coheed songs ever. It feels like just a heart on your sleeve type of record. And so I think this one for me has got to go in the S. I was thinking like between A and S, but I think it just is it's so in and of itself. It's so unique. It's just, there's only one Second Stage. So I just had to put it in S because it has such a clear and unique identity. And a lot of the songs just literally make me freak out, like Delirium Trigger. It's like, nothing touches on an emotional chord quite like that one. So that's straight to S for me. My computer's on dark mode, so In Keeping Secrets is looking very bright here, but this album cover is obviously a different color. It's more of a dark brownish sort of thing, a little more abstract. But this is In Keeping Secrets, their second album. And I think it's really their peak as far as their passion and their, the energy of the band was really arriving at this album. Everything sort of came together, and I think from start to finish it's a pure classic. If you're not familiar with the band, this is a great place to start, I think. It has In Keeping Secrets, probably their most recognizable and beloved song amongst fans. Maybe Welcome Home is more recognizable outside of that. But I'm just gonna peek my head here at the track list. Yeah, I mean, Cutsmark, Three Evils, The Crowing. It's just banger after banger, really. You have the Camper Valorium Suite there at the end. Some excellent songs. I love Back End of Forever. Amazing song. And then just some epics, A Light in the Glass, 2113, obviously Little Rush, hint there. Just a fantastic album. So it's got to be S tier for me. So we're starting off strong here. And it's only going to get stronger because Coheed and Cambria's Good Apollo 1 is my favorite album of all time, I'd say. Probably tied with the Reina Kindo's first album. It's a confusing one because it's got a 4 on it. It's their third album, and it's called Good Apollo 1. I'm Burning Star 4, Volume 1. From Fear Through the Eyes of Madness. There's just no way to not screw that up. Obviously, it's all tied to the Amory Wars concept, and everything by Claudio has these ridiculous names, which is just par for the course. Yeah, perfect from start to finish in my mind. You got Always and Never, probably my favorite softie that Claudio has written. Welcome Home, I've heard it a little too much at this point, but it's incredible. 10 speed, Crossing the Frame. When that little guitar lick comes in at the end of Crossing the Frame, with the vocal on the bridge, it's just, man, so good. And the writer, all those awesome synth sounds. Just the sci-fi is maxed out. The songwriting is maxed out on this one. The production is very unique on this album. It's very polished, but it still has that sort of energy of the first record. And In Keeping Secrets, Wake Up, a super softie, The Suffering. Yeah, every song here is incredible. I think a song like The Lying Lies and Dirty Secrets of Miss Erica Court is one that has grown on me a lot, especially because they played it live as like an encore song at a past Never Ender. And, I kind of listened to it in advance, and not one that when I first started listening to the album, it didn't stand out, but then it just grew and grew. And then The Willing Well for me is peak Coheed. There's nothing better than The Willing Well, especially if you like progressive music. That is pure prog in its purest form. I realize if you're into kind of classic prog, retro prog, the big five of the 70s, it may sound a little strange to you because it's very modern. But as far as modern prog goes, it's right at the top. I think for me, From Fear Through the Eyes of Madness, that track, the second Willing Well, is I'd put it at my favorite Coheed song. Yeah, let's do that. So definitely S tier on that one. I'm just watching. So I have my baby is napping right now, almost 2-year-old. So I'm like looking at that out of the corner of my eye because she could just wake up, and then I'd have to leave. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I keep looking off screen. But this fourth album is Good Apollo 2, No World for Tomorrow. So we got No World for Tomorrow on Spotify, but it's Good Apollo 2. And the final of this story of Coheed and Cambria in the Amory Wars. And I think this is the first one where there was just a slight dip. I think they were building up for me all the way to Good Apollo 1. This one is still an A album, I think. I'll just go ahead and throw it up there. It's got a little bit more poppiness in some respects. I think of songs like The Running Free, Feathers, and they're just a little bit more middling rock songs, like really solid, really good, but nothing like mind-blowing. I love Mother Superior. I mean, this album's great. It's really great. This is, compared to any other band, this is an S album for me. I think The Reaping is fantastic as far as their opening tracks go. Coheed always does this super well with these instrumental tracks that just build such an ominous mood and get you pumped and ready for that second track. And this is their formula, is doing this massive, intense second track that's kind of an epic, usually around 6-7 minutes, something like that. I think this one's a little shorter, but amazing track. Kind of a go to war type of song. That's how it feels. And they do that a lot across their albums. I mean, you look at No World for Tomorrow, it's got that. You got Welcome Home. You got In Keeping Secrets. Yeah, I mean, it's a tried and true formula for the band for sure. But this one's just slightly under Good Apollo 1 for me. Have to put it at the A. Not crazy about the cover art either. I think there's just like a little too much going on. And compared to the really iconic Dragonfly and the 4 Roman numerals, Yeah, just a little much. All right, so now we get to Year of the Black Rainbow. I think for most people, this is the weakest Coheed album in this, first half of the discography. And I would totally agree with that. Just thinking of where to put this. I think one thing about it that I don't appreciate is it feels kind of like a Loudness Wars issue. Some of the heaviness of it is taken away by the compression, I feel like, a little bit. And also it just feels like a lot of the tropes and a lot of the songwriting tactics and methods that Claudio went to again and again ran a little stale on this record. Like I'm hearing, especially vocally, a lot of the same type of riffs and little runs going on, but they're just not quite as catchy and not quite as well composed. On this one, I do like most of the tracks. Okay. I would make an exception there to In the Flame of Air, When Skeletons Live. I think those are probably two of the weakest Coheed tracks. Just like really kind of butt rockish In the Flame of Air. To me, there's just not much melodically or with the chord structuring going on that's really grabbing my attention there. Yeah, it's just not quite as strong from them, and still a really good rock album. I think I'd throw it in the C range. If I could do like between B and C, I would, but we'll go with C. Okay. The Afterman. This was a renaissance for the band. Josh Eppard left. He was the drummer. He left the band. He came back for the Afterman albums, and apparently all the bad vibes going on around, Good Apollo 1, and I think Chris Penny stepped in for No World for Tomorrow. But when Josh came back, it was with the band welcomed him with open arms, and Josh was just so happy to be back. And I think that sort of chemistry of the original band coming back together. Wait, this isn't the original band because they had a new bassist at this point. But that combination of Josh and Claudio and Travis coming back together, apparently they wrote a lot of the songs together, in the basement. It wasn't just all Claudio. Of course, Claudio brings the ideas originally to the table, but he gives enough space to the other musicians to really grow and express themselves. And I think it came across on these albums. These are two incredible back-to-back albums that came out like within a year or a year after each other in 2012 and 2013. And just start to finish, they're incredible. They have a very similar formula. And again, it's that kind of go to war track. You got Domino the Destitute on Ascension, which came out first, and then Century the Defiant on Dissension. I mean, come on. Those are just such heavy hitters. If I look at Ascension, you got a few softies in here. Subtraction, the Afterman, but they're all super great. Goodnight Fair Lady, really upbeat, kind of like having a great time in like a musical kind of energy to it. It feels like to me. The Key Entity, Extraction. So I think my favorite track, and the band has said this as well, from these albums is Evagria of the Faithful. So different for them, and it just catches a groove, and it's very memorable and very different for the band. Love that song. It's fantastic. And I also think the new bassist at this point made a kind of name for himself on tracks like this, where he was really bringing some interesting ideas to the table. I think their first bassist, Mike Todd, had a really signature style. There was a lot of personality in his playing. He was just a really quick fingered bassist. His right hand was like off the charts. But I think Zach stepped in and did a fantastic job, and it's definitely evident on a song like that. And then we get to Dissension, and this one, the hard sell. You cannot beat those chugs in the chorus. Number City, so upbeat, so fun. Gravity's Union is like the crier. Like if a song's gonna just like rip my heart to shreds on these two albums, it's Gravity's Union, especially that bridge that just repeats over and over again. I think the concept is a little easier to grasp on these albums as well, as it kind of centers around Cyrus Amory. So it's a prequel to the Coheed and Cambria story. You get some more kind of contemporary, almost soft rock type of feels with Away We Go, Iron Fist, Dark Side of Me, but just really well written. No duds there, no disrespect on the modern soft rock thing. Two's my favorite one, so catchy. It's a great closer. So these for me are, I struggle not to put them as S's, but I'm going to have to go with A. I don't think they're quite on the tier of these three albums for me. But they're incredible, and especially for like later career albums or mid-career albums, they're just really a big welcome surprise after Year of the Black Rainbow. And it was also around this time that I got into Coheed for the first time. So these were new albums coming out. I was really excited about them, and they nailed it. They're both very digestible, and to come out, a year after each other, just such a good move there, I think, from them. All right, next up we got The Color Before the Sun. This is a little bit more autobiographical from Claudio. It's a little more lighthearted lyrics, not steeped in the sci-fi world. And I don't think it's as special, largely because of that. But also there's just some songs that are just less memorable, a little underwritten, in my opinion. I think of probably, I mentioned When Skeletons Live as maybe my least favorite Coheed track, but Young Love has got to be down there as well. This might be my least favorite Coheed track. I also think Ghost, it's pretty, but the chord sequence is super simplistic. It just doesn't feel like anything that inspired to me. I really like Island, super catchy opener there. Atlas is, very heartfelt about his unborn son at that point, and how he's, living this life of going out on the road and not seeing him. And it's just, that's a great highlight from this. You Got Spirit Kid, very fun, very upbeat. The Audience, more of a darker one, a little bit longer. Reminds me of like Gravity's Union. It's playing the same role in this album as Gravity's Union did on the last one. I enjoy that one quite a bit. Peace in the Mountain, okay. There's just a lot of kind of, decent contemporary pop rock in here. So I would also put this one at C, kind of alongside Year of the Black Rainbow. Very different vibes on these two albums, but I do that. My wife actually put together threw these albums in here. So these two I'm not going to rate. Shibuti, because I don't even know that Shibuti album, which is before Coheed started, and I don't know what this is at all. So we've got two albums left here. These are the most recent ones. 2018's Vaxis 1. What was this called again? Let's see. The Unheavenly Creatures, that's it. Can we just, with that album cover, I mean, come on. This looks like a video game still or something, like very generic in my mind. Don't love that. But the album itself is really solid. I think, again, a nice surprise after The Color Before the Sun. People complain about this one because it's really long. I think, probably is a little bit too long. I think it's like 70 minutes or something like that. They could have trimmed a little bit of fat, but for the most part, I enjoy it from start to finish. There are some real highlights in here for me. Black Sunday, that bridge especially, I love that. The Dark Senator, Unheavenly Creatures is a great pop single for the band. The Gutter is pretty solid. Old Flames, I love that song, so catchy. And just a lot of other good moments across it. I think between the two Vaxis records, this is my favorite. Spoiler there. But I just think it's a solid later career album. I don't really understand the story. I'm not, as a Coheed fan, someone who gets very intensely into the story. I'm much more about the music and the chord sequences and the melodies and the harmonies, as you'll know if you watch my other videos. So, Vaxis 1 for me is an A. I mean, I have real problem putting it next to the Afterman albums because those are a clear step above in my mind, but I still think this is an A album. I go back and listen to it all the time. I really enjoy it. So yeah, I think that's where it'd be. And then the last one, Vaxis 2. This is the most recent album. This one has a lot more of a kind of electronic pop, very modern sensibility to it. They stepped it up with the album cover, I think, a little bit here. Definitely more interesting, but yeah, just a lot of forgettable tracks, I think, on this for me. Even some of the singles, Shoulders, never really got into that song. Comatose, yeah, it just feels like a little shallow compared to some of the other work from the band, especially musically. I'm not even just lyrically, which I think you could maybe say that as well. But I think musically, it's just not quite as dense, not quite as weaving, and not quite as many little nuggets to discover later. So yeah, those tracks. I don't know if it's a disappearing act. There's one where it's like very poppy. I don't actually mind that track. I think it's this one. Yeah, I mean, looking at these songs, I don't remember a lot of them. I've listened to this album a lot. But I think this whole middle section of it is quite forgettable in my mind. When it really gets the highlights of the record and what kind of saves the record for me are these last three tracks. So Ladders of Supremacy, great, very progressive, and just a winding song structure that goes everywhere. Rise, Naya Nasha, Cut the Cord, probably one of their catchiest songs ever. Like I find myself singing that chorus all the time. Love that track. Window of the Waking Mind is this big epic closer. Kind of has like this Western sci-fi sort of feel to it. Yeah, love that song as well. So this one for me is not quite as good as Vaxis 1, but not... I'll definitely listen to it over Year of the Black Rainbow and The Color Before the Sun, so it would be a B for me. So yeah, that's how it looked. That's how it's looking. I feel pretty good about this. I mean, this would definitely be my favorite Coheed album, followed by In Keeping Secrets, probably followed by Second Stage, then the Afterman albums. I can't really separate them, to be honest. Then I'd put probably Good World or No World for Tomorrow, then Vaxis 1, Vaxis 2, probably Year of the Black Rainbow, and then The Color Before the Sun. So yeah, that's it. And hope you enjoyed this little different spin on my videos. I think I'll make some more tier lists like this, do some other bands that are up there for me. For me, it's like my wheelhouse is modern prog, and especially kind of this art rock, pop infused modern prog. So bands like the Deer Hunter, Coheed, Mew, those are the North Star. And yeah, this band's always just been really special to me. I do want to plug real quick a top 10 songs I did of Coheed with my friend Max. That was a few years ago now, but I'll go ahead and link that one after this ends, and then down below as well. And yeah, what do you think of Coheed? Does this make sense to you? Would you move things around a little bit yourself? What's your favorite Coheed album? What's your least favorite Coheed album? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.